All right, football fans, we are back with the NFL Week 13 Pick'em Show. I want, before I get started here, to remind everyone uh, to please go ahead and, if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe and leave a like. And if you're listening on a podcast platform, go ahead and subscribe there and leave a rating. Would be very much so appreciated. We'll go ahead and get started. We got Omar Yusuf on the call, fresh off of a Argentina victory over Australia. What a win by them. Um, I know this is the NFL, but you want to say a few words about the Argentina win?
Yeah, man. Like we were just talking about it. Much needed, man. I was on pins and needles at the end there, but it just kind of shows. We talk about both sports here, but I gotta say, and I mentioned this to you earlier. Nothing, no score in any sport can compare to the feeling of scoring a goal and seeing your
Yeah.
team score a goal, and especially like when you start talking about World Cup, like these international games. It's just like the level of pressure and excitement and everything is just like wrapped in one. It's just like it all like just kind of comes together.
Yeah, and it's the global game, and I just saw a video on Instagram in Ghana, especially like we see the reaction in the stadium, but when you see it when they're back home,
Yeah,
the whole, I mean, it's like rows and rows and rows, and then like there's a whole building with the Ghana flag on there, and people watching from the building and crowded streets, and it means so much to them. You're right. I mean, the build up of
yeah,
a
yeah. I
Golden
mean,
World
I'm,
Cup.
I'm I'm saying this. I'm not
Yeah,
even like from Argentina, like no
yeah,
connection, right? So like you can imagine folks who, when their country scores a goal, right? Like what it means to them. Like you definitely see it, like
yeah.
it come through.
Big time, big time. Yeah, they're crying in the stands. It's like it means so much to them. But
Yeah,
yeah, maybe that's a good endorsement for everyone that's watching for American football to watch some English football. It's also an amazing sport.
yeah,
Well,
man.
yeah,
And I will say, like, now's a good time to get like the American side. They're not bad, man. They've gotten a lot better over these last couple of World Cups, and I think I know you mentioned this before. I think they're just missing like an attack, right? They're just missing more offense. Like if they get that, they can be a pretty viable team, like moving forward.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, just need a striker, really. One amazing striker, and we'll see. But we'll go ahead and move on to the NFL Week 13 slate here. As I was going over these games, to be honest, I think this is the best, most competitive week of the season. Just going through all the games, and we're going to see in some of these lines that kind of manifests itself. We're going to start with the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Atlanta Falcons, and this is one of a few even lines in this game. There is no favored winner or loser. This is a true pick 'em. What do you see in this game?
So I went back and forth on this one when I was looking at this. I think I'm gonna lean towards Atlanta because they've been somewhat competitive this season, and I think they're probably, they have that motivation that of possibly securing that division, like it's in their sights. I think, well, at least competing for that division, and I think they're gonna come out and really try. This is in Atlanta, right?
It's
I
at
gotta
Atlanta,
pull up the.
correct? Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta pull up the. Yeah, see, I don't think that this is the same Pittsburgh. I kept waiting for Pittsburgh to kind of wake up, and I know they don't have the talent, but I thought that Pittsburgh mentality and all that stuff would shine through at some point. But it just doesn't seem like they have it this year. And I think Pickett played a little bit better last game. I like what I've seen from George Pickens. He looks like he might be the best, or you could argue that he's the best rookie wide receiver from this class. I don't, or wait, never mind. I think Olave is the best rookie wide receiver, but I think Pickens is in the conversation. So I think that they have something going, and TJ Watt can always like take over a game, but I just think Atlanta, they have more to they have more in their sights. I think right now that's much more tangible. So I think I'll take Atlanta, but yeah, this is going to be a very close game, something like 20-17.
Mm. You make a good point about the Falcons having more to play for, but over the last few weeks, as I've been watching the Steelers play, I've seen them improve based on what they were to start this season, and after they lost a lot of the defensive players to injury. Like you mentioned, I think Pickens has become a great receiver for them. I think he is a much better number two receiver than Chase Claypool was in terms of consistency and athleticism. And I think he's ready to really break out. And, finally, like you mentioned, the defense getting TJ Watt back. Um, and I think actually Najee Harris won't be playing, so they're finally going to get Jalen Warren to get in this game, who to me is a more explosive running back. So, I'm putting all those things together. I just think the Steelers are the better team. The Falcons have kind of disappointed me throughout the year, even though they're in contention to win NFC South. I think the Steelers are a little bit better, so I'm going to take them 23-14. So we'll move to
I
the.
mean,
Go ahead.
you might be right because they don't have Kyle Pitts to block for him this week.
Exactly.
He can't block. So.
The great blocking Kyle Pitt. Man, what? Every
Yeah,
time I think about how they're not getting him the ball, it just makes me upset. But
yeah.
we'll see. So moving on to the Green Bay Packers at the Chicago Bears. This is December in Chicago. It's going to be cold. It's going to be in the 30s. But the Packers are favored by 3. What say you?
Yeah. So I'm gonna take the Packers here, and I think they'll cover. I think. So I just don't think the Packers are as bad as we're kind of making them out to be. Um, I don't think they're good, but I don't think they're like horrible. And I think them at home. Oh well, they're them on the road against the Bears. Who Justin Fields has been on fire lately. That rush offense has been one of the best in the league. But I just don't think that they know how to close out these games yet. I don't think that they win these games consistently. Like as well as Fields has been playing, they have not been winning these games. And I think Rodgers, he's been a little up and down, but now that he's hurt, it's going to be interesting. I think Jordan Love is playing this week, right?
I don't know. That's one of the things I was going to bring up because it's really unclear who's going to be playing this week because he has that oblique injury in addition to the broken finger he's been playing through. So I really don't know.
He didn't look bad. That's the thing. Like Jordan Love did not look bad. So I think either way the Packers win. To be honest with you, I think if Jordan Love plays, it'll be a closer game. Um, so if Aaron Rodgers plays, I say it'll be something like 24-17, something like that. Because we're getting into that time of year where these cold weather games, the weather starts affecting the style of the game, the offense, everything like that. If Jordan Love plays, I think it'll be a little bit closer, something like 23-20, something. But I think either way, I think the Packers, as disappointing as they've been, I think they're a better team right now than the Bears, so I'll take them.
Yeah, you mentioned this earlier. The Packers QB situation is just a real mess. There's real conflict going on between Rodgers and the coach and Jordan Love. And what I saw last week, I think they played in either one of the primetime games or the coach looked so happy when Jordan Love was in there. And it seems he just wants Jordan Love to be the starter. And it's not because Jordan Love is more coachable, it's because he is coachable, period. And he actually listens to the coach here. Justin Fields for the Bears is back now, and I think he's just going to run all over the Packers in this game. Like you mentioned, it's a game at Chicago. The conditions here, I think it's going to go to the better running team. So I'm taking the Bears here, 28-21. Moving to the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Detroit Lions. This is another even line, a true pick'em game. Who do you got here?
Yeah, I'm looking at this and I'm having a hard time here because the Jaguars are another team. So I actually think the Jaguars are better than the Packers, to be honest with you. I think they have better weapons. Um, I don't know, man. Because the Lions, to me, again, the Lions are a team. In fact, both of these teams, I would say, are teams that are not like horrendous. I mean, I don't think they're good, but I don't think they're like terrible either. And this could be actually a surprisingly competitive game where you get like two below average teams, who are probably pretty equal in terms of their quality. So I'm gonna kind of take the Lions just because of home field advantage. I think that offense, again, I say this every week, the offense can go off. I don't think Jameson Williams is playing this week, but it's something to keep an eye on moving forward with them. But yeah, I think their offense can keep them in games. The one thing I would say is that Trevor Lawrence has been playing better lately, so I'm interested to see how he'll, you know, whether he'll be able to continue with that moving forward. But because of the home field advantage, I'm going to take the Lions literally, like, basically by the line. I'm going to say 21-20 Detroit.
Yeah, truly, truly evenly matched teams here in my eyes. I agree. The Lions' defense has improved as the season has gone on, and the Jags' defense has gotten worse, in my opinion. And so now they're kind of even in that way. And, conversely, the Jags' offense has improved, like you mentioned, with Trevor Lawrence. And I think the Lions' offense has gotten a little bit worse. So I think that they're even there as well. So I had in my notes here the same thing you said. Just because the Lions are at home, I'm going to take them by a point here, 24-23. So we'll move now to the New York Jets at the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings are favored by 3 here. What do you think of this game?
Yeah, man, this might be the best game, or at least the best early game. I haven't gone through the whole schedule, but I was looking at this, and really interesting game because I think you have an elite defense versus a very high-powered offense that has the capacity to go off at any time. My heart honestly really wants to pick the Jets here.
Yeah.
I think Saleh is, at this point, to me, I think he might be the front runner for Coach of the Year because I was listening to, it was actually a Cowboys podcast, and they were talking about Mike McCarthy, but they made an interesting point that Saleh is winning with Wilson and he's winning with Mike White. Like, he's winning with different quarterbacks. And the second you show that you can win without your starting quarterback, or where you can switch it and, still keep winning, I think that bodes well for you and your coaching prowess.
He won with Flacco, too.
Yeah, and Flacco. And I think, like, the way that they're playing the defense, I really want to pick them in this game. I just wonder if the lack of, I guess, better quarterback play is going to catch up to them if the Vikings can get going. And they're at home, and it's 1 o'clock. So all those things, I think the Vikings can get going a little bit because of that. I think the defense will keep. I have a feeling that this is going to be a game where the Jets defense will keep them in check for most of the game, but I think at some point it's just going to be too much for the Jets offense to keep up. So I'm going to take the Jets. I'm going to take the Vikings, eking out this win, and I'll say 24-20.
Interesting. Yeah, this is going to be an amazing game. One I'm really looking forward to. I think Mike White is going to continue doing well, and they'll be close all game. But I think at the end of the game, one of the more experienced players, Patrick Peterson or Zadarius Smith, will either pick off Mike White or sack him for a fumble. And it'll be on the last play of the game as they're trying to make a comeback. So I am going to take the Vikings here in a close, low-scoring game, winning 17-14. Like you mentioned, this is a 1 p.m. game for the Vikings, so they're pretty much unstoppable in that slot. So now we're going to move to the NFC East battle. Washington Commanders at New York Giants. Both 7-win teams here, 7-5 and 7-4 somehow. Commanders are favored by 2 points here. Who do you got?
Yeah, so not all 7-5 teams are alike. It's been the running gag, right? Like, the Giants are the worst 7-5 team in NFL history. I'm gonna go on record and say at some point, like, it's gonna even out, and they're gonna be just another, like, 8-8 team or whatever. But I think, and I've been saying this for the past month, I think the Commanders are a better team. I do. I think that the Commanders, they have better weapons. That interior defense is better. The quarterback is probably a push, but I think the Commanders overall are better. they're on a winning streak. They're hot right now. Having said that, both of these teams play each other back to back. And I think what I'm going to do, like, they play each other next week as well. So,
Really?
yeah.
Has that
Yeah,
ever
yeah. They play
happened?
each other next I have no idea how that happened, but yeah, they play each other back to back.
Huh.
So I'm going to say that they split these games just because it's a wacky, division thing. Because I do not see either of these teams sweeping the other. So because this one is at New York, I'm going to reluctantly pick the Giants. There's no rhyme or reason for it. Again, I think the Commanders are a better team. But because, weird things tend to happen in these division games, I think the Giants win this week, and then I think the Commanders win next week. And knowing how these go, I think the exact opposite will probably end up happening where the road team wins both games. So who knows? But yeah, that's going to be my pick.
Yeah, this could have very easily been another true pick'em and even line, in my opinion. Again, very evenly matched teams, both performing above their talent level, as was mentioned. Washington just seems to have a little more juice, a little more talent at the moment. They have the momentum on offense and defense. I think they're getting a little better on both sides here. Brian Robinson finally looks like what we saw in the preseason, and he hadn't looked like that before. He came back, I think, a little bit too early. He maybe wasn't confident in whatever procedure was done on his legs. But last week he was trucking guys. He had speed. He finally looks like a legit running back. So for those reasons, I see Washington winning in a tight game by the exact line, 2 points. They win 21-19. Moving now to another NFC East team, the Tennessee Titans at the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles favored by 4.5. What do you see in this interconference battle?
Yeah, so this is an interesting game. I think this is probably one of the tougher games that the Eagles have left on their schedule. And I want to make sure, but I think that, you have this Eagles, the key here is going to be this Eagles run offense versus the Titans run defense. And it's going to be interesting to see, if the Titans can kind of step up and stop this defense or this rush offense from kind of imposing their will. I think they're ranked, kind of middle of the road in terms of yards per game that they allow the Titans. I was trying to find the exact number, but yeah, I think it's somewhere like in the middle. If they can do that, I think this will be a really interesting game. The other interesting kind of matchup here is on the opposite. It's the Titans offense, which is obviously, based on their run game versus this Eagles run defense that has looked like porous recently. I know they shored up that interior. I think Jordan Davis, I think the last time I checked, I think they said he might play this week. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can slow down Derrick Henry. Having said that, I have been picking against the Eagles for the past few weeks, and I have been getting close. To my credit, I have been getting close. So I'm going to do it again in the hopes that it comes to fruition. Again, they are good enough to win this game. I'm not just hating just to hate, but I think that the Titans can win this game. Tennessee has been one of those teams that gets hot at the right time. Like, they've done it for the past couple of seasons. And, I can see them kind of doing it now. It's December. It's their brand of football. So I'm picking the Titans to barely win this game, another close one. And I'll say 24-21 with the late field goal being the difference.
Okay. I'm going to say this. In this game, I want to see Hassan Haskins finally get some carries for the Titans. This is a very talented rookie running back from Michigan, and they need to get a change of pace back in this backfield because the past couple games, Henry's actually been, contained pretty well because they're stacking the box against him, and because of how big he is, it takes a while for him to gain speed. So what they've been doing is passing him the ball. So the big gains that he's been getting this past couple games are on passes essentially when they can get him in space. But if you can get a guy like Hassan Haskins, who's fast and elusive, he can do it from the very beginning. So I want to see them get him some carries in this game. The return of Treylon Burks has been a game changer for the Titans. He is now the best receiver on their team, and he absolutely opens up the field for them in a way that wasn't happening when we saw them play the Chiefs and a lot of these other teams where they had a chance to win. The Eagles, what I've been seeing is they've been regressing in their pass game. They don't know how to scheme A.J. Brown open anymore, and I have him in every single one of my damn fantasy leagues, and he's been disappointing me. Literally every single one of them I have him, and he's been disappointing me these past 3 games. Overall, the Titans are the more physical team, especially on defense, and I think they roughhouse the Eagles in this one, and they get a win 31-20 on the road. I like the Titans.
You're right, man. I will also co-sign the Hassan Haskins. I wanted to draft him, actually. I thought he would have been a great late round pick, and I think he still can be. I definitely support that. And I'm looking at right now the Eagles' passing offense. Yeah, they're definitely I think they were ranked 19th last time I checked. They're averaging 219 passing yards a game. So
very average.
I get it. I get it. Their run offense, and they're really good at that. But what I've been seeing and what I've been saying is I don't know if they can sustain a vertical passing attack. That's, a consistent attack. Can Hurts, who has been playing great this year, can he throw you into a game? That's kind of my thing here.
Right. And to be honest, I'm not a huge fan of Miles Sanders and Kenneth Gainwell. I don't think that they're built for the postseason. I think they're not bruisers, they're kind of they seem like kind of fast little backs, but Jalen Hurts is their primary runner, and I don't like when you have that as a QB. I don't know. I think
you don't want to get him hurt.
Yeah, I just think Jalen Hurts overall is just a little overrated. He's playing above his talent level this year. That's my personal opinion. We'll see if that manifests itself in the playoffs. But we'll move on to another overrated running back, running quarterback who is playing as a running back. Denver Broncos at Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens are favored by 9.5 points here. What the hell is this line? The fraud Ravens just lost to the Jaguars. What do you think about this? You're on mute.
So I agree. I think the line is way too high. Just to be upfront, I'm going to pick the Ravens just because it's a home game,
sure,
and the Broncos' offense has been a mess. But 8 points is just disrespectful to that Broncos defense.
9.5.
They're ranked third. Yeah, I think they're ranked third in the league. Hold on, let me see real quick. Yeah, the Broncos' defense is ranked third in the league. They're giving up 306 yards a game, which is, if you think about it, that's crazy because of how much their offense cannot sustain drives. So they're
true.
I haven't been watching the games as much, but I'm guessing they've been on the field a lot, and for them to not, be giving up more than that is very impressive of that defense. And I think because of that, that's the only reason that that line is, too high, and it should be a lot lower. I don't think that the Ravens cover that. I think, they win this, close, I don't know, 20-17 or 17-14, something like that, because I don't think that I certainly don't think that Lamar and the passing attack can attack this Broncos defense. If they're going to score points, it's going to be, that rushing attack, him running the ball, things like that. I think maybe they can score points that way. But on the outside, vertical pass game, I don't see much success there. If Russell Wilson can get going, then they can win this game. If he can just be average, to be honest with you, I think they can win this game. So the pressure is on that Broncos offense. I have no reason to kind of say that. So because of that, I'm going to say the Ravens win a close game here.
We've been saying Russ get started for so long at this point, and I can't defend this guy anymore. I really can't. I mean, his own defensive player went and yelled in his face last game, told him to get going, get something done, help us. As you mentioned, the Denver defense is so good. Please do something. Like I said, I can't defend Russ, but I've never defended Lamar, and I never will until I see him learn to pass the ball. Like every game I watch this Jags versus Ravens game pretty closely, and this guy he just doesn't know how to pass. So many overthrow. I don't know that there's any starting quarterback that is projected to be like making top money that overthrows the ball as much as Lamar Jackson. And like you mentioned, the Broncos defense is great, and I think they're gonna expose Lamar. I think the Broncos win an ugly one here, 9-7. Broncos not even gonna have to score any touchdowns. They're just gonna 3 field goals, and that'll be enough to beat Lamar's 1 touchdown. So
It could happen.
yeah, that's what I see. But moving now to a really interesting game, the Cleveland Browns at the Houston Texans. Deshaun Watson's long anticipated return to the NFL after almost 2 years of being out of the league. Not only back to the NFL, but back to Houston. With Cleveland's season essentially on the line here, they're 4-7. They're really fighting to have any chance of making the playoffs. I think this is a must-watch game, and the Browns are favored by 8. What say you?
Um, so I'm not gonna address all the off-field stuff. I'll kind of leave that to the side right here. And speaking strictly on the football aspect of this, Cleveland should easily cover this. Like easily, they should easily cover that. I think even if Brissett was playing, they should cover this. Houston is actively trying to lose. Like you cannot convince me otherwise. And I think them getting Deshaun Watson, again, strictly in terms of football, he is a very talented player. It's just a matter of how much rust is there, his timing with the receivers, things like that. Also, we cannot exclude the possibility that all the off-field stuff might impact his psyche. Does that come into play? Having said all that, I think Cleveland should still just dominate this game. I think that they win by 3 scores. I think Houston doesn't really care what happens for the rest of the season as long as they lose. So I think I'm gonna pick the Browns. I don't know, 24-6, something like that. I think this is just going to be complete domination here, and the score could be even wider. The only caveat is, if you have this convergence of all these factors that I mentioned that come into play that kind of affect Watson's ability to play this game. But otherwise, yeah, I'll pick the Browns to win this game easy.
If the Texans had even a respectable team, if they were even below average, then I would say this is their time to come in, and Deshaun is knocking off 2 years of rust. You go, you pick him off, you sack him, he just looks lost. This would be the best game they have a chance of coming back in, especially with a lot of the, this team has not had a lot to play for this year. They finally have something to play for right now. So I would say if they had even a below average team, that this would be their best chance to win, but they don't. And the Texans, they're only, the Browns are only favored by 8. There should be no team that's favored by less than 10 points against this team. They were down, I think, 30-0 against the Dolphins last week, or 31-0 at halftime. Halftime.
30.
Yeah. And the Texans benched a bad QB for an even worse QB. They can't block for their best player, Dameon Pierce, who's had maybe 20 yards over the past 2 weeks. I know both of us own him in fantasy. It's been really tough to see how much he's struggling. And I think the Browns crushed the Texans here 50-20. I just think it's going to be similar to last week, and they're going to keep Deshaun in the game in that second half, and they're just going to tear him apart. So moving on now to my Seattle Seahawks at the Los Angeles Rams. Seahawks are favored by 7, by a touchdown here. What do you see happening?
I think that line is pretty fair, actually. I was just looking at that. I think Seattle's the much better team. The Rams are going in the opposite direction. I know they're getting Matthew Stafford back, or I don't think it's confirmed, but him possibly being back this week. But at that point, you're coming off a concussion. You have to make sure if there's any rust. I think he's missed like 2 games, one or 2 games, I don't
at
remember, but
least.
and he wasn't exactly playing great before during the season anyway. You don't have your weapons. Cooper Kupp's out. Allen Robinson's out. You don't have you don't have your one, your two. Their running game is a mess. I don't know, man. I think Aaron Donald's going to miss this game
He
too.
is.
So I don't see any way that the Rams win this game. The only way I see is if you have, again, a convergence of this being a divisional game and them being home. And like something wacky happens. But I'm going to pick the Seahawks. I think, they've the last couple of weeks, I think they've kind of hit a little bit of turbulence. They've still been playing fine, but I think they're not as hot as they were, and I think they're probably going to try to regain some of that heading into this last stretch of the season. So I'm going to pick the Seahawks to win this game, and I think 7 is fair. So I'll say Hawks win 24-17.
You mentioned Matt Stafford is playing this game. I didn't know he was playing. I don't see why he would be playing in this game. Like you said, Cooper Kupp is out. Allen Robinson is out. Tyler Higbee didn't get a single target last week at all. That's their best tight end. Aaron Donald is out. All their stars are out, and some of them not even really because of injury. I think some of them would be able to play through injury, but McVay doesn't see the worth in playing them. Yeah, I don't think McVay sees the worth in playing them essentially this season anymore, just like he does this in the preseason. He never plays any of his stars.
So I have an update. Yeah. So about an hour ago, it says that Matt Stafford was placed on IR. So
okay. He's done.
He's probably out for the year.
They're doing it. This is McVay. When there's nothing on the line, he doesn't play his players. He's been doing this consistently. Seahawks better win this damn game. I mean, there is no reason for them to lose this game. This is that stop. Like they're going through a skid. This is the one that should stop it for them.
Right.
A divisional game.
Right.
And Seahawks have years of anger of losing to this team to get out of their system in this game. Even when they've been the better team, even back when this team was in St. Louis, has given them issues, especially when they're playing at the Rams. And I'll bring something up later about the Seahawks when we talk about the Raiders. But yeah, I'm gonna take the Seahawks to absolutely blow this team away. This sounds crazy. I'm going 60-7. And I know that's a bit of a heart pick, but I need for them to show me in this game. And the Seahawks are a great offensive team. I think they have a lot of great offensive weapons, and the Rams are giving up and laying down. I need for them to blow this team out to have any kind of chance of making the playoffs, because right now the Seahawks are out of the playoff picture. So they really, really need to make up some points and win this game. So we'll move on to the Miami Dolphins at the San Francisco 49ers. Another great game. Niners here are favored by 4 points. Who do you got?
Yeah, I was looking at this one. You're right. This week, I'm not stepping out of the house this week or tomorrow.
Great
I'm
games.
not leaving my house. I think I'm going to take San Francisco. I could see Miami winning this game, but I'm going to take San Francisco. It's in San Francisco. That defense is playing lights out. I think I read a stat where their last 4 games, they've shut out their 4 opponents in the second half of these games. So, that's very impressive. And I know we've talked about this before, but for all the flack that Jimmy Garoppolo gets, he is like the perfect quarterback for that team. Like, I know you can always upgrade. I'm not saying he's like a top 10 guy or anything like that, but he drives that bus and he drives it to perfection. Or as close to perfection, I'll say, And I think again, we're at that point where these teams, these contenders, are going to try to start, separating themselves and setting themselves up for these runs, and hopefully trying to get hot. And I think the 49ers are in a prime place to kind of do that. Now, what's interesting is I know both of their running backs from last I heard are actually dinged up. I think I
Yep.
heard that McCaffrey has something. He's going to play. I don't think he's out, but I think he has something going on too. So that's something to keep an eye on because, again, I don't really think that like the 49ers need a star running back, but if both of their starters are out, then that might be something to kind of keep an eye on. The Dolphins could win this game. I think if there's a team that can give the 49ers some problems, it might be the Dolphins and the way that vertical passing attack is has been operating. Tyreek Hill with his speed, Waddle with his speed. I think that they can give them some problems. But I think the 49ers ultimately pull this out. Another close game, and I'm going to say 27 to 24. I'm going to give the Dolphins offense some love here. I think they've been very good, but I think ultimately, I think the Niners are one of the top teams in the conference, and they'll show it tomorrow. Hope I'm wrong
Yeah,
though.
I do too. And the Dolphins are a well-oiled machine on offense. There was a video an interesting video on YouTube I saw with they reversed the footage of Tua showing him to be a right-handed what he would look like as a
Right,
right-handed. Did you see
right.
that?
Yeah, I saw
Maybe
that.
somebody dropped it in the chat, and that's how I saw it. But it makes him look like an elite quarterback. It's funny how like that visual kind of like changes how you think about somebody from left to right.
Right.
And yeah, of course, the Niners defense, like you mentioned, they're great. But I think the Dolphins are finally like clicking on all cylinders in terms of like even like Sherfield, like the receiver is getting into it, and then now I have the Jeff Wilson on at running back, who is the best running back on their team at this point. And the Niners offense, like you mentioned, like they do every season. They run through all of their running backs, and now Elijah Mitchell is back on IR. McCaffrey has that lingering leg issue that he's been dealing with, and now they're going to, they just keep every year they go through a lot of these running backs that Shanahan kind of blows through, and I think it's the reason why they haven't won Super Bowl during this run because he doesn't know how to stagger the use of his running game, even though it's very effective. It just kind of as the season goes on, it's just attrition really, and they just run out of running backs. So I'm going to take the Dolphins to win this one. Maybe it's a little bit with my heart here, but I'm going Dolphins 29-20. I think they're just too potent on offense.
Could happen.
Yeah. Moving now to another great game: Kansas City Chiefs at the Cincinnati Bengals. Chiefs are favored by 2 points. Who do you got here?
Yeah, this is a pick 'em, man. I think ordinarily I would say the Chiefs pretty comfortably, but the Bengals have kind of had Kansas City's number recently, and Joe Burrow in particular. He's never lost to Pat Mahomes, and I was literally just looking at looking at the CBS lines, and they have an interesting stat where they say since the start of 2019, Mahomes has been 33-3 in November, December, and January, but he's 0-2 against the Bengals. So
Ooh.
two of those three losses have been against Cincinnati.
Wow.
And I think, Burrow has been on fire. And, Jamar Chase, I'm pretty sure he's going to play this week.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't think it's a situation where he'll need much time, to be honest. I think you can just slip him in and, he can pick up close to, where he had left off, assuming he's healthy. So I'm going to take Cincinnati here. Another close game. I think Burrow, this is just one of those things where, sometimes a player just has your number. I think, and so far, at least in their careers, Burrow has, like I said, he's never lost to Mahomes. So I'm going to say Burrow and the Bengals win this, and I'll say this is going to be a high-scoring game, I'm assuming. So I'll say 35-31. I'm gonna take Cincinnati.
Amazing. Yeah, we're very like-minded on this game, except for one thing. So I think both teams have great weapons. Like you mentioned, Jamar Chase is back. That's going to make a big difference for the Bengals this year. But I'm going to give the edge to the Chiefs. I think they're a little bit better, and they have revenge on their mind fresh from that last year's AFC Championship game. That's a really interesting stat you brought up about him not being able to beat the Bengals 2 out of 3. But I think he gets this one to even that record, and the Chiefs win in a great game. I had written 35-32, so just 1 point different from yours. Moving on now to the Los Angeles Chargers at the Las Vegas Raiders, another great divisional game. The Raiders, despite having the worst record here, are favored by 2.5. What do you see happening here?
Yeah, I have no idea how the Raiders are favored here.
Hmm.
Um, I
don't know, momentum maybe.
The Raiders have been a disappointment all season, and I think what they're probably looking at is the talent that Oakland or that Vegas has, and they're looking at what they can be, and really like what they've been doing like the last month. Again, inconsistently, but we've seen Devontae Adams kind of go off, and we've seen what he can do. Or we should. I can't not mention Josh Jacobs either, right?
Yeah.
He's been, he's the All-Pro running back. He's starting on the All-Pro team. I don't care what anybody else says. But I don't trust them, man. Like I don't see how I can trust them. I think. Well, I say that, and I don't think I can trust the Chargers either because they always like find a way to disappoint. But because of how inconsistent the Raiders have been, I'm going to take the Chargers to win this one. Another close game. I don't see either defense really like playing too well this game. So I'm going to say 30-27. I think the Chargers eke this out. And effectively that would, I think, end the Raiders season, like for the most part.
Yeah, the Raiders have had back-to-back overtime walk-off wins. And allow me to just talk a little bit about what happened last week with the against the Seahawks. So, okay, the Raiders have great weapons, like you mentioned, Josh Jacobs, Devontae Adams. Those are two of the best players at their positions, and they maximized Josh Jacobs in that run defense against the Seahawks run defense. And what the Seahawks have been doing the past 2 games, and I hate that they've been doing this, and I hope they stop doing this, is they've actually deactivated one player on their interior run defense in favor of activating a defensive back to stop the pass, because for some reason they're so worried to stop a lot of these receivers breaking out against them like Devontae, and they kind of held Devontae in check, 7 catches for 70 yards last game, as much in check as you can. But when you give up, they gave up 70 pass yards to Jacobs, and then of course 240 yards to him rushing. So he had over 300 yards total. So you're not going to get that every week. I'm sorry, with Jacobs is not going to get 300 yards every week. It's not going to happen. This is due to the Seahawks' ineptitude and a really, really poor strategic decision. And I think the Chargers won't be as bad against the run, of course, obviously, as the Seahawks. And I think that they're the better overall team. And them getting Keenan Allen finally back opens up the field for them, in addition to Eckler, who I think is one of like the low-key best running backs in the league, not only as a runner but also as a pass catcher. So I see the Chargers winning this one as well, 31-24. And I think there's also going to be a crash from the Raiders pass to Waka. That's a lot of like emotional energy
That's
too,
true.
So playing overtime twice. Moving on to the Indianapolis Colts at your Dallas Cowboys for Sunday Night Football. Cowboys are favored by 10.5 points. What a line. What do you think happens here?
Yeah, it makes me a little nervous, actually, to be honest. I think, not that I think the Colts are like a good team or anything, but so I think all or most factors are playing in the Cowboys' favor. The Colts are coming off a very short week. They lost that game on Monday. Short rest. The Cowboys have had a mini bye, right? The last time they played was on Thanksgiving. So hopefully they should be rested up. What makes me a little nervous is that the Colts defense actually isn't like horrible. They're like okay. I know like Shaquille Leonard's out, but they still have players. DeForest Buckner's still good, and I've watched a little bit of Stephon Gilmore, and he's still all right. He's not like what he was, but he's still like okay, And I'm a little like concerned about this line because I don't think it's going to be the blowout that they're making it out to be. I I mean, I could see that, but I think what's more likely going to happen is that this will be like a 30 to 20 game or 35 to 24 game. Well, I guess that's the line, but um, it's I see the Colts putting up more of a fight than people are acting like. That's my point. And I say that having seen Matt Ryan look petrified. I'm like, it was just like pathetic to watch, man. Like happy feet, like just like what do you like? You're a former MVP. You're a veteran. Like you just looked terrified on Monday. Like I just don't know what was going on with him. So if he was terrified of on Monday night, he's gonna be petrified this Sunday. You got Michael Parsons coming at you. This should be a blowout. I hope it's a blowout. The Cowboys' offense has been ranked number one or top five in most categories since Dak has been back, and they're starting to click. They're starting to gel. But I'm just a little hesitant about saying it's going to be like 45 to 6 or something that people are acting like. I don't think it's going to be that. So I'll say the Cowboys win comfortably. I'll say either 35 to 24 or 35 to 27, something like that. But yeah, the defense is giving me the Colts defense is kind of giving me a little bit of a pause because I just wonder and hope that they're not being overlooked here, because I already know everybody's going to be focused on Jonathan Taylor. We know that. I don't think they're going to overlook Jonathan Taylor. It's just, are you assuming you're just going to walk up and down the field, against this defense? And I hope that's not the case.
You've said it all, and I don't have much to add to this. To be honest with you, I think the Cowboys are clearly better. I think Jeff Saturday doesn't know how to manage the clock, and that's one thing they overlooked when they signed this guy. Amongst other things, you have to have a lot of you have to have a lot of in-game experience to be an NFL coach. Like you got to start at some level, like at least be a college coach for a little bit or observe being an NFL coach, and he doesn't have that. It's at Dallas, like you said. The Colts defense is okay, which is why I think maybe the Cowboys aren't gonna score a ton of points, but I still think they are gonna blow them out. I think they're gonna win 30-10. That's my prediction on this game. Finally, the Monday night game, the New Orleans Saints at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucks are favored by 3.5 here. Who do you got on this Monday night inter division game?
So this is going to be my upset of the week. I'm taking the Saints in this game. Tom Brady has historically struggled against the Saints, at least as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. I know that this is in Tampa Bay. I would feel a lot more strongly if it was in New Orleans. But, this is a divisional game. The Bucks have not been great this year. And I think the Saints I've been kind of watching them a little bit. I think they're like this sneaky team that can kind of slip into the playoff race that nobody's talking about. I think their quarterback situation probably produces a lot of high variance. You don't know what you're going to get, whether that's Jameis, whether that's Andy Dalton, whether that's whoever. But they have weapons. Chris Olave is great. The defense can be pretty good, actually. So I think the Saints win this game just because they seem to have had the Bucks number. But again, it'll be close. I think a late score, maybe a late touchdown or a late field goal pretty much decides this game. So I'll say 24-20 or 21, depending on if it's a field goal or a touchdown.
Tom Brady, this is not an exact quote, but I heard him say something this week similar to, I'd rather play losing football than not play football at all, which is crazy to me because now I'm thinking, like, how long is this guy going to play? Like, this guy is all in on football now. I mean, that's it. His marriage is dissolved at this point, and to hear him say that now, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with his career. The Saints seem, yeah.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but I read the Athletic had a story where they said that there's a chance he goes back to New England.
Really?
And, yeah. I don't know if it's a rumor or what it is, but they were talking about possible destinations, and they brought up New England, and in which case, they would obviously trade Mac Jones or whatever. But I just thought that was really interesting
Crazy.
because I never thought I'd see that. I never thought he would go back there.
Crazy. This is like he was retired. He was done with football this past summer, and now it's like, when is he gonna stop playing? When he says something like that, and then those rumors start coming out, and the Saints seem to own the Tampa Bay Bucks essentially. Even in their Super Bowl winning seasons, I remember they were shut out by the Saints that one year, and the Saints defense always gives Tom Brady a lot of big problems. I'm joining you on this upset special. I think the Saints win here 18-14, and it may be on 6 Will Lutz field goals, and that's really all it takes. So that brings us to the end of this amazing Week 13 NFL slate. I want to thank you for jumping on, Omar Yusuf. I'm really looking forward to these games, like you mentioned. This has been the Football v Football podcast. Of course, you can watch this on YouTube, and now we are on even more podcast platforms. Been added to Stitcher, Amazon, iHeartRadio, a bunch. I think we're on 9 or 10 at this point. So whatever podcast platform you use, we're on there now, and you can support this podcast on Ko-fi, Ko-fi would be much appreciated. Thanks again, Omar Yusuf, for jumping on. Really looking forward to the games tomorrow, and have a fantastic day, football fans.